Hey, what is up, everybody? Welcome inside the Guilty as Charged podcast. My name is Steven. I am your host, as always. Really excited about today's episode. I am always excited to talk football with my guys. And we have a quad box again. So joining us today to talk about free agency, we needed his expertise, is Arjun. Arjun, how you doing, man?
Doing great. Had a really good weekend, or start to the weekend at least, and now, entering spring break. Just excited to come back on here talk some ball.
Yeah, absolutely. And in case anyone missed his article, Arjun did do a prediction article on PFF predicting where each of their top 50 free agents are going to sign. So make sure and go check that out. That's obviously going to be the theme today, and we can kind of gauge some of his thoughts there. But excited to have him on here as well. So also joining us are Tyler and Alex. Tyler, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing very, very well. I'm very excited for this, although I'm a little bit nervous because I know every Chargers fan thinks you can sign about 20 marquee free agents. So unfortunately, we're going to have to disappoint you.
Yeah, so we are each going to share our top five wish list in terms of free agents. I know we tried to kind of balance it out right between top tier free agents and kind of some middling free agents that are a little bit more realistic. So we're not going to see lists of Devontae Adams and J.C. Jackson. I don't know, we might, but I feel like we're going to mix it up a little bit. So we'll get to that point in a second. But Alex is here as well. Alex, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good, Arjun. I know you won that championship, the debate one, but I'm actually more interested in your flag football expertise and prowess because you've been putting up some Joe Shiesty numbers out there, haven't you?
Uh, I no comment on the Joe Shiesty stuff. We only had our first game, but I will say I was wearing my Herbert jersey while the game was going on.
There we go.
So that was the inspiration I was going for.
Yeah,
There we
good
go.
job, Arjun. I'm sure you would have gone ahead of Shea Patterson in the draft. And also, I'm just happy to see Michigan win a football game for once.
Man, we got the Ohio State Michigan rivalry up in full class right now. But yeah, so like I mentioned, we're going to be sharing each of our free agent wish list today, and then we're going to do a bit of a mock simulation using over the cap and some of their numbers, and of course, using some of PFF's projections in terms of contracts and trying to work things around. So it is going to be a great conversation. Can't wait to dive in. First and foremost, I want to get to our wish list here, and so. We'll just go kind of around the horn, just going 1 through 5 if you want, or you could do 5 through 1, either way. And then just kind of highlighting, if you want to mention why you want each guy, go for it. We'll do a little bit of an elevator pitch scenario here. So we'll start with Alex. Alex will get your 5, and then we'll go to Tyler and then Arjun. And obviously, if there's any kind of comments that you guys want to make about each player or have a question, whatever, go for that. So Alex, we'll start with you. Kick us off 5 through 1. We can do it that way.
Yeah, so I've kind of made my list from like least realistic to slightly more realistic. So at number 5, I have Von Miller from the Rams. Not going to happen, but I can dream. I think he would be a great edge defender on this team. Provides a lot of value. Him next to Bosa would be pretty fun. Not going to happen. So kind of we'll skip that one. Number 4, I do have Akeem Hicks from the Bears. Obviously just fills a very important need there at defensive tackle. Kind of fits the system that Staley wants to go for as well. Questions about his age and injury history, but I think you can get him for fairly good value compared to some of the other ways to fill the interior as well. At number 3, this is going to be a personal one of mine, but I kind of do want Zach Ertz. And so that would be kind of a fun one. You might have to overpay for him now because of what Carolina gave that Arnold guy. No, sorry, not Arnold, the Thomas. Yeah, they traded that one, the other white tight end. But anyway, yeah, so that's going to be a thing. They're probably going to have to overpay if they really want Zach Ertz, but this team has missed kind of a good receiving tight end for a while. So I do think he would be kind of helpful. With Cordero Patterson at number 2, Tyler's guy. He's been talking about it nonstop with Ryan Ficken quotes and trying to put it into perspective for about a year now to try to get Cordero Patterson be a Charger, and I can't disagree with him. I mean, he would help the team a lot, obviously on special teams, and he kind of fills that wide back role, and they do need a sort of running back too, and they sort of need a wide receiver. So I can't disagree with him there, even if maybe I'm slightly less horny for Cordell Patterson. And then I will go with my slightly less. And then my number one kind of free agent option is Mike Williams. I mean, we'll talk about him, but I do think it's important that Mike Williams is ultimately back on the Chargers. There's a lot of free agent stuff and whether Chargers fans want him back or not. But I do think he's important to bring back because of his relationship with Herbert and how they really developed this year. I think they're going to put the franchise tag on him eventually. But I just think even if it makes maybe slightly more sense to let him walk from a money perspective, I do think what he contributes to the team is really important.
Yeah, I didn't put Williams on my wish list. I mean, I feel like that's kind of people know where I stand there. But Zach Ertz is obviously the interesting one there. We've messaged back and forth about tight end options. Tyler made a whole video about not wanting Mike Gesicki on the team or not wanting the team to go after Mike Gesicki. But we know that they flirted with the idea of trading for Zach Ertz last year. And so it wouldn't necessarily surprise me if they were interested again there. There's a certain account there that was trying to make waves in that regard, but literally anyone can look at a previous trade interest and make that connection again. So I would not mind, going after Zach Ertz. I feel like he would. Obviously, the Ian Thomas contract would hurt things a little bit, but I can't imagine he costs more than $10 million at this point. So maybe a bit of a value signing. And spoiler alert, I have a tight end on my list as well.
I also have a tight end on my list, but let's see if I can beat you to it. Good list, Alex. Clarify the Ian Thomas White comment.
No, I think he meant Dan Arnold.
Logan's?
Yeah, I think he meant Dan Arnold.
No, okay. So I meant Dan Arnold because I thought he was still there, but then I remembered he got traded. I just assumed Ian Thomas was white because his name was Ian Thomas and he was on a team with Dan Arnold. So I stepped it in again.
Ian Thomas is black for what it's worth.
Well, another race.
Big if true. Per source and all that. Okay. For me, it's going to be a bit of a list of guys that I've talked about already. Unfortunately, I've kind of already talked about these guys, so it really shouldn't come as much of a surprise. I did try to make it a sort of realistic list. Of course, you want Devontae Adams, J.C. Jackson, even Von Miller. I just think Von Miller is returning, so like he didn't end up making my list. So for me, top 5, it's kind of no particular order, but number 5, I do have Hassan Reddick, who was with the Panthers. Steven and I, or at least I definitely for sure, have wanted him as early as last year because there was such an unknown within Nwosu, and yet Reddick was a guy who had, 60 pressures, a dozen sacks or whatever it was. Like, hey, let's go get that guy. He had another great season. He's had 100 pressures, 38 sacks, 69 run stops over the last 2 seasons. And he currently is ahead of Nwosu this past season in productivity and win rate. So I know like Nwosu being back is probably going to happen, but if it isn't going to happen, and honestly it'd be fun even if it did happen, I would like Reddick. That is just a clear upgrade, so I'm cool with that. At number 4, I do have Cordell Patterson, a guy who was tied with he was 3rd most in yards per touch, and Austin Eckler was right behind him. To me, if you could mix and match 2 guys who are top 5 in yards per touch as running back / wide receiver kind of types, I think that'd be fantastic. At number 3, I do have a David Njoku. I don't know how you can argue against him at this point unless you're worried about the contract itself, which I can understand, but this is a wish list. So, the guy that was 2nd in yards per route run, 2nd in yards after the catch per reception, 1st in yards per reception, 4th in drop rate, 3rd in touchdowns, 6th in pass blocking efficiency, 4th in Pro Football Focus's run block grade. Like, you can kind of use him however you want. And to me, I just think he fits a little bit better than someone like a Gesicki or even a Schultz, as fantastic as those additions would be. And it sounds like he might be like the 3rd or 4th guy in terms of AAV. So I think there's a slight bargain there. I didn't have him on my list, but OJ Howard is another guy that I'd be really interested in. But this is more of a top 5 wish list. At number 2, arguably could put him at number 1, D'Ernest Johnson from the Browns, if he becomes available. I know that's not set in stone yet, but it does seem like he's going to become available. Just everyone's kind of predicting that. I mean, where do you start with him? A guy that's top 5 in EPA per rush. And Arjun just shared with us his rushing yards over expected. And Steven did the calculations today. He's 9th in rushing yards over expected. I think if you had a minimum of 100 rushes, 5th in yards after contact average, 4th in yards per attempt, 8th in breakaway percentage, tied with Eckler for 4th most yards per touch. And his 3 real starts this season. I know the sample size is kind of small, but he had over 400 yards from scrimmage in his 3 big games this year. And he played New England, Cincinnati, and the Broncos. To me, that's a very, very good. That's a good set of showings against some very good defenses. So it costs him very little, I think, and there's very little mileage there. So I like him. And also, he is a guy that's played 533 special team snaps. We've heard sort of from Ficken that they called some Browns guys. I'm not saying they're bringing him in to play special teams, but you might want to talk to the Browns guys about his ability to play special teams. And we saw Justin Jackson as the RB2 doing that. So my number 1 is Tyrann Mathieu / Harrison Smith. If Smith becomes available, that's intriguing. But Tyrann Mathieu currently, to me, like, I just think this is the best way to free up your defense. And the analogy I made was playing rock, paper, scissors. You need rock, paper, and scissors. You can't play rock, paper, scissors with just rock and paper. You need a third guy out there. And to me, Tyrann Mathieu just fits, I think, what they would like to do, what they've been trying to do. And honestly, I think if he does actually hit free agency, I think it's a pretty easy sell. Like, would you rather play next to Derwin James or Daniel Sorensen? Although Sorensen is a free agent. But to me, Derwin James, that's an easy sell. A guy, it's not really fair to give this, comparison to Adderley, but Adderley has had 1 interception, which was kind of a gimme from Drew Brees against the Saints his entire career. Tyrann Mathieu has 13 over that same span since 2019. And I know, Matthew's played more, of course, and he's a veteran, but the Chargers need that. They need those 13 interceptions, not a guy like Adderley, who we saw last year kind of drop a few, not be able to pick up some that he should have had. I feel like Mathieu can do a little bit more for the defense in that way. So, what they want to do, the slot corner market being bad, I don't know if they want to take a slot corner early in the draft. I think Mathieu is my favorite free agent candidate so far that seems kind of realistic and also fits what they want to do.
Okay. Do we want to? Okay. So yeah, I'll take it away then. I really like Tyler's list. I've been going back and forth on Patterson. I personally think, or I'm not. He's not on my list, but like I personally think, if we bring in Patterson, having him and Roberts seems a little bit, repetitive. So,
For
I know
sure.
you guys were on the build a statue for him after the kick return for a touchdown. I'm just curious to see how that changes, with Patterson as a potential option, before I start my list. Like, if you guys have any opinions on that.
Well, wanting to build a statue can, in the moment. And if you have the choice to go after Cordarrelle Patterson or Andre Roberts, I mean, I think Cordarrelle Patterson gives you probably slightly better value in terms of what he can do in the offense versus it doesn't seem like the Chargers really wanted to include Andre Roberts much in the offense this year. That could just be because he got there late and they didn't design too much for him. But if you make me have a choice for, obviously Cordarrelle Patterson would be, a little bit more expensive, but still kind of a bargain. I would probably take Patterson out of those 2.
Yeah, same. And I think he fills the RB2 situation well. But with that, I'm going to start my list. Fair warning, this is a trenches heavy list because I've kind of changed the way I view how to win in football now, especially not just because of recency bias, just because of some other discussions I've had. So number 5, I'm going Morgan Moses. I just want someone who can be reliable at right tackle, someone who's durable, and he's played 1,000 snaps the last 2 seasons. He played 858 snaps in 2019. He played in Mike LaFleur's zone heavy scheme, which the Chargers kind of ran last year with Joe Lombardi. I would say he's an upgrade over Balaga or especially Norden and Pipkins. It would, I wouldn't be too happy if Norden was the swing tackle, like the definite swing tackle going into training camp. But like I said, I think Morgan Moses would be a viable option to start next year at right tackle. PFF has him at a 3-year deal. Would not be surprised if he took like a 1 or 2 year deal, just because like I don't know how we translate to our system. But
Yeah,
I think he'd be really good. Number 4 might be a surprise, but I'm going with Uchenna Nwosu. I think I don't think enough people have been talking about him or like discussing him as like someone to bring back. I know it's pretty much just been like Mike Williams and like Kaiser White, but like I was like looking at the edge rusher market, and honestly, like outside of Von Miller, I don't know if anyone would be able to play Staley's scheme. I know Hassan Reddick is there also. You know, I think he's going to command more money than Nwosu, especially since Reddick had, you know,
Yeah.
how many sacks did he have with the Cardinals in his last year? It was like 15.
I think he's had 28 sacks the last 2 years.
Yeah, and Nwosu is nowhere close to that, right? So like you're not going to be able to, you know, Nwosu is going to be much cheaper. He did flash towards the end of the year and had some really, really good games to close out the year, especially against the Chiefs and the Raiders, where he kind of just took over in the run game and, you know, rushing the passer. And again, I just don't think the free agent class is built for Staley's scheme at the edge rusher position, which I think, you know, if you can get Nwosu back on a deal, you know, I kind of spent my entire last week just projecting contracts and all that. I think if you're the team side and you can get him for under 10 mil, that'd be a steal, you know, and he's an ascending edge rusher. And I think if you give him another year in the system, he'd perform. Which brings me to number 3. I'm going DJ Jones from the 49ers. I just think they need to remake this interior defensive line from scratch. You know, I think with Staley's scheme, you win in the trenches, you force 3rd and longs, and then you let your pass rushers attack. I think having a good secondary gives you a higher ceiling. I think having a great defensive line gives you a higher floor. And I think at this point, with how good the Chargers offense is, they should be chasing a floor, not a ceiling. I think DJ Jones gives you that chance. You know, really good run stopper, has shown flashes in the run in the pass game. And if he's the guy that you can bring in and keep Tillery off the field on obvious rundowns, I think that's the way they should go. Which brings me to number 2, Sebastian Joseph Day. In this scenario, they'd be playing Joseph Day at nose tackle and DJ Jones at like Justin Jones' spot from this year. So, like I said, completely remake this interior defensive line. So you get Day, who has had 2 seasons now in Staley's scheme, a 2-gapping scheme. Nate Tice, Mina Kimes, they've all, you know, kind of just glorified Sebastian Joseph Day as like the anchor of this team. You know, like a guy like Ashawn Robinson would also be, you know, in a similar spot here. But Day's, you know, 27, ascending, has had familiarity in the scheme. They could go Akeem Hicks here also instead of DJ Jones or Day. I think going younger is obviously better, and it kind of breaks the trend of what Telesco's done, which is go get older established veterans as free agents. And I think just going younger would help the youth movement with the Chargers. And at number 1, Mike Williams. I've been heavily aboard you need to bring him back. I don't think there's you should be tagging him if you don't think a deal could be made. He's going to be paid nicely if you tag him, so I wouldn't see a reason why he wouldn't sign it or hold in. But I mean, at this point, you have to just give Herbert as many weapons as he can. I know Williams doesn't separate as much as people would like him to. I posted the table today of Keenan Allen being number 1. I'm not going to say where Williams is because it's not pretty, but for me, it's just he gets the job done. He got a 1,000-yard year this year. When he was involved in the game plans, he was a stud. And so I think there's no reason he shouldn't be brought back. And, you know, I think he's an integral part of this offense, and, you know, he should be here for the next at least 3-4 years.
Yeah. I mean, people know where I stand. My biggest thing with Mike Williams and bringing him back at this point is, you know, last offseason it was all about supporting Justin Herbert and getting the most out of Justin Herbert. And so to me, letting Mike Williams walk is counterintuitive to that goal that they had last offseason. So I know everybody wants, you know, to focus in on the defense, and, you know, letting Mike Williams walk would allow them to go get, you know, expensive defensive player. I think for me, still the most important thing for this franchise has to be maximizing Justin Herbert's rookie contract window. And to me, letting Mike Williams walk, it does not make sense there. So like Arjun, I do have a heavily trench list as well. Of course, you know, why not? I think that's kind of going to be the focus. But I did like his point about Morgan Moses. I went with a different right tackle who also has scheme familiarity, and that is Riley Reif. He was somebody that I wanted the team to trade for ahead of the 2019 season when there was all those Desmond King rumors. And so he obviously was in Minnesota for a very long time, along with Ryan Ficken. And so Ryan Ficken, I believe, was the assistant running backs coach at the beginning of his career. So there's got to be some kind of overlap there. And I know he was he finished last season injured, but for the most part, Arjun mentioned dependability, and I think Riley Reef has been that. He's only allowed a combined 42 pressures over the last 2 seasons. I don't think he's as good as a run blocker as Morgan Moses. I'm pretty sure that the run blocking grade and film would back that up. But I think he's a solid starter at right tackle. And we we talked about this draft class and how just not really wanting to have to be tied to taking one of these right tackles early due to all the question marks. So I think Riley Reef would take that need off the board. At number 4 for me, this is kind of a fun one. It is a tight end. It's Gronk. And Gronk, I think, has had a career resurgence in Tampa Bay. Obviously, he retired, but it doesn't sound like he's going to stop playing. It kind of sounds like he wants to keep playing. Why not bring him out west, bring him into some warmer weather? And I think he could still be a productive player and continue to mentor, Trey McKitty and Donald Parham. So Gronk was actually 7th in PFF WAR in 2021 and 5th in 2020. This past season, he had 64 catches, 918 yards, and 7 touchdowns, all of which were in the top 10. He was 6th in yards after catch per reception and 5th in yards per route run. And of course, we all know how good of a blocker and just, he's a great tight end, right? Like, I think why not? Like, this is a fun wish list. Why not add him on here? At number 3, I also have Sebastian Joseph Day. Obviously, there is the Staley connection that everybody knows about. To me, this is kind of the biggest layup of the season, or off season, I should say. And I know that he had the pectoral injury, but his season, man, was really on pace to be a fantastic season. So in 7 games, he had 10 total pressures, 3 sacks, and 22 run stops. Among all interior defensive linemen, he had the best run stop percentage at 15.5. If he had been able to pace out to a 17-game season, he would have had 53 run stops, and Aaron Donald led the league with 40 among interior defensive linemen. So Sebastian Joseph Day, to me, was an ascending player before the injury, and I want a piece of that. And I think he's an affordable young defensive tackle. Doesn't have as lengthy of an injury history as someone like Akeem Hicks, but I think that makes a lot of sense. Number 2 for me is Jaron Kearse, the safety from the Dallas Cowboys. So, I think all of us are on board in terms of adding a safety. He's somebody that makes a lot of sense. He checks the coaching connection box with Ryan Ficken as somebody who was kind of a core special teams player in Minnesota. And this man really just played all over the field. He had 176 snaps for Dallas on the defensive line, 446 in the box, 215 in slot, and even 54 out wide at outside corner, 2 interceptions, 10 pass breakups. So we had a lot of really good ball production as well. And to me, this is like, I've been kind of, putting gas on the fire of the Tyrann Mathieu thing. To me, Jaron Kearse is kind of discount Tyrann Mathieu. And so I think it just makes a lot of sense there, does a lot of the same things, and he's younger. So I think that makes a lot of sense for them. At number 1, this guy is not currently a free agent, but he is going to get cut, and that is Zadarius Smith. And so Zadarius to me is somebody that is very interesting, somebody that I expect to get cut. I know he had the injury from last season, but before that, across the previous 3 seasons, he totaled 225 pressures, 42 sacks, and 40 tackles for loss. So this is kind of a scenario where you're chasing a great player. Like, this is my top tier free agent that I did want to have on the list instead of Tyrann Mathieu. I think, we continue to show an interest in the Green Bay Packers. And so why not continue that tradition? And I think Zadarius for me would be, probably the best possible edge rusher, at least in terms of balancing somebody who's still young, has a few years, of course, would be relatively expensive, probably in that 17 plus range that PFF has projected for Von Miller. But Zadarius Smith is number 1 for me.
Yeah, I hadn't thought a lot about Gronk before people started mentioning it to me, but I was like, oh, he's going to retire with Brady, and then he didn't. And I was just thinking oh, well, it's been a long time since the Chargers had a passable tight end who was a good run blocker and a good blocker in general. I mean, Hunter Henry was passable. Jared Cook, no. And so that was kind of the thing where I wouldn't have mind having Gronk there, like you said. And yeah, I looked at Za'Darius's cap hit after the Niners lost, and I was like, okay, he's much like my fascination with Von Miller as well. They just need more there.
Yeah, and there's been some issues obviously with the Packers. Apparently, he was very upset that he was not named a captain this last year. Doesn't really vibe with Matt LaFleur. So, I mean, the Packers need to get under the cap to be able to afford a potential Aaron Rodgers extension, and of course Devontae Adams. And yeah, as Jason points out, Joe Barry, the Packers defensive coordinator, the Packers have run a similar defensive scheme over the last few years for Za'Darius, and he played in Baltimore as an outside linebacker as well. So I think he really would be a perfect fit alongside Joey Bosa. Unfortunately, that would mean that Uchenna and Nwosu would go elsewhere, but I think Za'Darius would make it worth it.
No, I completely agree there. I almost am more interested in the guys that could potentially be cut than some of the free agents that are on this list, like someone like Harrison Smith, someone like a Za'Darius Smith. Apparently, if your name's Smith, apparently I'm really interested in you if you're cut. But yeah, I think at that point, that's a nice, easy justification ahead of, getting rid of Nwosu. I do think Nwosu's back, and I think there's a good argument for it, but a clear upgrade like that. Like even though I do prefer Reddick, I think there's, if you get Nwosu for $4 million less per year, $5 million less per year, and then go pursue an edge rusher at 17, I think that could make a little bit more sense. But someone who's a clear, like ahead of Nwosu, pick like Smith would be a great idea.
Yeah, the one thing I want to add to that, so like I think Za'Darius is in a very interesting situation, not just because of if he gets cut, but like if he gets cut, since I spent a whole week doing contract projections and all that, just looking at like who his comp would be at this stage in his career. He's 30 years old, he's played 7 seasons, right? The only player I think I'm looking at who's a top tier edge rusher who signed a deal at 30 years old is Cam Jordan. And Jordan didn't really sign a deal. He signed a 3-year extension in 2019 when he was already under contract until 2020. Yeah, 2020. So he signed it like 2 years in advance. And part of that is because the Saints were going all in under Drew Brees and all that, right? So
yeah.
So Jordan, his deal was 3 years, 52.5 mil, so 17.5 APY. I'm curious if Za'Darius goes after something higher than that because he's had 2 seasons of like elite pass rushing production in 2019 and 2020. Obviously, he got hurt this year, but yeah, that's going to be interesting. I wonder if he goes 3 years, maybe 2 years, maybe just comes in like at a 1-year deal like Clowney does, and just goes like 116 or 117, try to build his value back up. But yeah, I think he's definitely going to command top tier money, and I think he's going to chase a deal like Cam Jordan instead of like a Von Miller or like Chandler Jones deal, because they signed like super long deals when they were like 28, 29, 27-ish.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's obviously interesting that, a bunch of us had a running back, a tight end, edge rusher. So kind of gives you an indication of where we're at in terms of this position. And for what it's worth, I feel pretty confident at this point that Nwosu is back. I mean, he was the team's poster boy for Super Bowl week. I can't imagine that is insignificant. So, we'll see what it is. Alex, are you still there? Is he frozen? Anyone else?
He is frozen for me.
Oh, well, I think I'm still here.
Yeah,
okay. Well, we can hear Alex. Yeah.
Okay.
There we go. So, guys, any other final thoughts here before we get into kind of a mock simulation here?
Nope. Someone did ask, or just Lorenzo McDaniel asked, no corners. To me, they're just not really like, well, okay, JC Jackson's returning to New England probably, and there's just not a real great set of corners that are out there other than maybe like a Rasul Douglas, I guess. I don't think the Chargers are ready to move on from either their current guys as 2 outside guys. I think they'd rather just go in the draft, and it sounds like they might go in the draft. So we could talk about corners, but I'm not really super thrilled with this class.
Yeah, me neither. And like, I know we've talked about it so much. It's like, what are they looking for in a corner? Because are you going to move Asante inside if you sign an outside guy? Like, if you draft a guy in the first round, you don't. I mean, drafting a slot corner in the first round isn't great in terms of positional value. I'd rather just take Jordan Davis at that point because slot corners aren't going to play the full 100% of the snaps if they're healthy, right? So you just got to think about that. This isn't a great like outside corner class also. And in terms of Rasul Douglas, you don't want to buy high on a corner because they're going to hit regression at some point. And coverage is that streaky from year to year. It isn't smart to buy high on a corner. I'd rather buy low on a guy like James Bradbury if he gets cut, if I'm being completely honest. But that might just be me.
Yeah,
James,
I mean, I was
go
just
ahead,
looking
Alex,
at
sorry.
some of the cornerbacks that we were kind of talking about, and like really, I mean, it's J.C. Jackson, Darius Williams, and like a bunch of guys that are probably going to get like 1 year deals, like Patrick
Mhm.
Peterson somewhere, Casey Hayward somewhere, probably Indianapolis with Gus Bradley.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's going to be the place. But yeah, I feel like it's a lot of those guys, and none of them really benefit the Chargers unless they just want a 1 year deal for like a CB2 type player. But then that brings up what do they want to do with Asante? Are they going to stick him outside or put him in Chris Harris's slot corner role? We'll see. But yeah, that's why I don't think there's a lot of corners that really make sense unless they really do want to make a big play for JC Jackson or something like that.
Yeah, so in terms of the corner market, like I definitely think that they make a move there. I don't think it'll be, an expensive guy, but there are good depth options here, and we can talk about some of them. I don't see like a big expensive move there, but there's Kyle Fuller who, wasn't at his best this past season, but we know that they were interested in signing him after the Bears cut him. There's Mike Hughes, former Vikings first round pick, obviously connected to Ryan Ficken there. So I think they could sign a good depth option there. Of course, there's Bryce Callahan, but I mean, he's been injured so often in his career. Obviously, has the double connection with Staley in Denver and Chicago. So I expect them to add somebody, but I just don't think it'll be, an expensive one. And, if you think the Chargers are going to sign JC Jackson, just wait until tomorrow when my interview with Brad Spielberger drops, and you can check that out and hear what he has to say. Kind of rules it out. But that being said, let's dive into this mock free agency simulation here, and we'll talk about some of these decisions and whatnot. I'm gonna take that away since it's over Arjun's face. That's my bad. So obviously we have to start with Brian Bulaga. He is like 99% sure he's gone, whether that's being cut officially or retiring. So Tyler, let's take Brian Bulaga off of here, and then obviously takes the Chargers up to 67. Yeah, 67 million. So the next interesting one here, of course, is talking about some potential restructures. Of course, there's Keenan Allen has a good restructure option. I think Michael Davis has a good restructure option. Arjun, do you think there's any chance that Tom Telesco actually does do any restructures this year?
Personally, I don't. I wouldn't advise for it either. Like, I'm not for restructuring unless you have a quarterback not on a rookie deal and this is the year like you have a chance to win. I just don't see the need to potentially put yourself in a cap constraint in future years unless we have to. They have enough cap space to rank in the top 5, top 3 in some situations in effective cap space. I just think, they should just roll with what they have right now and just, unless it's a cut or signing players, they don't really need to make moves elsewhere.
Yeah, I think what people just forget about restructuring is you're always kind of pushing that money down the road, which is sort of the problem, right? I mean, we talk about the Saints with that a lot, who just restructured Michael Thomas and, other players. But, you're sort of just pushing the problem down the road. And like Arjun said, with Justin Herbert on a rookie deal, you really just don't need to do it. There could come a season, like I think the last year of Keenan Allen's deal is like a 25 mil cap hit. That's a situation where maybe he regresses a little bit and you want to restructure, but to me that's much more a down the road problem than a right now problem.
So I guess my question is, you'll see videos or simulations where people just like, oh, we'll just restructure the deal and push it to 2023 while Herbert's still on his rookie deal. Why wouldn't they pursue that, I guess?
I mean, like, you could pursue it. The issue with it is, like, to me, when you restructure a deal and you're not making the player take a hit on their salary cap. Like, what's the word? Like, you're not making them take a pay cut. That means you're going all in, or like you really think this is the year that you can win a championship. And like the fact of the matter is, like, 31 teams don't win a championship. The amount of things that have to go right for you to win is crazy. And so if you're hinging everything right now, like if you're hinging everything to win a championship right now, when you really know nothing about the team, like you could have you restructure a contract now, a day later they could just tear their ACL in off season, like training off facility. There's so many unknowns with football. I don't think it's wise to go all in with restructuring contracts. I talked about it in my video. Like, the Rams going all in this year should not be a blueprint, because it worked because there were no elite teams this year, and they found that niche, and they found that this is the year that if we go all in and everything goes right, we can make it, even though we don't have the best roster top to bottom. We have the stars that can make plays in key situations, and that could help put us over the edge. But again, like, Rams are under the cap. They can obviously get over the cap, or they're over the cap. They can get under the cap. But restructuring to go all in or make a push at a high marquee free agent just doesn't seem like a viable strategy, unless like you're 100% sure that you can get a guy like Odell Beckham Jr. in the middle of the year when you know everything about your team and how it's performing. Sorry, I know that was a lot.
You're right. No, I was gonna say Arjun's right. I mean, like, for it to work for the Rams, like, it required a lot of things to like happen. It required Matt Stafford to request a trade. It required Odell's father to go on Instagram and do what he did. And then, it required them making a ballsy trade for second and third round for Von Miller. So like, a lot of things had to line up that were kind of impractical for it to work, which is why, like Arjun said, I don't think it's replicable. And in the instance of like the Saints and the restructuring they've been doing, they're sort of able to restructure someone like Michael Thomas, because I don't know if you know what happened to Michael Thomas last year, but a lot of things regarding his surgery and when he got it, and what he was to the team. So a pay cut was kind of necessary there, and they just do Taysom. I don't even know what they do with Taysom Hill. It's some Bernie Madoff stuff, really, with him. But they just keep going with that contract in void years. So I don't think a lot of that is applicable to the Chargers.
Yeah, I have a good friend of mine is a Saints fan, a good friend of mine from work, and so we were using over the cap to kind of try and figure out how the Saints get back under the cap, and it was just like, oh man, like, this is kind of a disaster. So for every Rams team that goes all in and wins, there's a Saints team that goes all in and hasn't really been able to do that.
0 for 3. Like, you look at the larger sample size, you don't take the one team that won, right?
Yeah, right. So I think maybe we could see a Michael Davis restructure. I know he just signed his deal and all that stuff, but I mean, coming off a down season, he is a potential cut candidate next year. So I wouldn't completely rule that out, but I do not expect Tom Telesco to really do much besides cutting Brian Bulaga, which frees up, of course, the extra $10 million. So I think the rightful place to start this exercise is, of course, with Mike Williams. Based off of kind of where the team is at, I feel like the franchise tag makes sense here, at least in terms of the contract, and would kind of allow them to reevaluate things after next season. Are we all on the same page about franchise tagging Mike Williams?
I'm fine with the tag, yeah.
I also vote for the tag.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's tag Mike Williams, and if you could scroll up, Tyler. Sorry for our audio audience. I'll try and kind of explain things here, but that takes the Chargers down to, does that say $47 million?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so $47 million, of course, a little bit and change there. So, Alex, you mentioned Akeem Hicks here, and so this is kind of a situation where I want to dive into, because there's something that's going to happen in the next couple weeks with the Chargers coaching staff that I think will directly point them towards signing Akeem Hicks. So to me, this feels like the most likely signing here. Being able to kind of replace Justin Jones with Akeem Hicks, bring in somebody that this coaching staff is very familiar with. And so for me, I'm okay starting this exercise after Mike Williams with Akeem Hicks.
Yeah, I think my first option before the news would have been Sebastian Joseph Day, and I still think that is a possibility and a strong possibility. But yes, Stephen breaking some news here, sort of, that something might change everybody's minds and think of Akeem Hicks first. So yes, I'm all for it. Just what is the deal here? How are we doing this?
So I think this is a great reason why we brought Arjun on here. So for what it's worth, Akeem Hicks, I think, is projected at a 2-year 8.5 per, if I'm not mistaken, by Brad on Pro Football Focus. But Arjun, what do you think? What are your kind of contract comparisons for Hicks at this point in his career?
Yeah, so good question. I think Hicks, with the way I see the Chargers constructing their contracts, they always have a low year one cap hit. So the way I see it, I think this will be a 1-year deal. The first year will be like fully guaranteed almost, or maybe like partially, like 80 to 90% guaranteed. And it'll be like if he performs, he'll get the money in year 2. I whatever Brad has, I'm okay with. I just think the cap hit, it's gonna be like maybe 5 mil this year up, and then it'll be what, five, if we go 5, it'll be 12 mil
Probably like,
next year.
yeah.
So that's the way the Chargers have done their contracts, low year one cap hit for all their veteran guys. And, I think they'll get, obviously, Staley and Hicks have some familiarity. So they're going to give Hicks like the benefit of the doubt that, hey, we'll guarantee your first year. But, if we see some injuries or, you just aren't performing at the level you used to, I think you keep the team in a situation where you can cut him next year at almost no loss. So I need to pull up some like similar contracts on the market. I don't know. This
We could
is
keep
tough
it simple. If you wanted to do like
yeah.
5 and 7 or something, like we can do that.
Yeah,
Or
no, 5. So like 5 mil in year 1 and then 12 mil in year 2. Well, yeah, I guess like the other part would be like the signing bonuses and everything, but that's just dependent on the team. Honestly, like some teams give higher signing bonuses, so
Yeah.
you could just, how about this? You could just guarantee is like fully guarantee is year 1 and then nothing in year 2. Because I think that's what it's going to be.
okay, does everything look okay on screen? Is that okay if we do it like this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And obviously Arjun knows much more about the contracts situation than the three of us, I think, but obviously a rough estimate. So now we're at, for the audio audience, we are now at $42.92 million in cap space for 2022. So Alex, where do you want to go next after signing Akeem Hicks?
I don't know. I mean, we can go in a lot of different directions here. I guess we could talk about what the Chargers should do at edge and their sort of internal free agent there in Uchenna Nwosu, and we could take a vote on that and then decide if we want to go in another direction or throw the bag at them.
Yeah, I personally do feel that based on, honestly, Kaiser White probably not coming back at this point. I do think that Uchenna Nwosu is a priority for them, and I would again, I completely understand why. So I do think Nwosu is back with the team.
Yeah,
I'm on board there.
Yeah, same.
Okay, so Uchenna Nwosu, we're going to extend him. How are we going to do this, folks? What is the Pro Football Focus number? It's 3.
Yeah, 3 years, 8.75 APY, 26.25 total.
All right, Arjun, make up some numbers for me. Just make it up.
Yeah, so it says he has 15.75 guaranteed. So let's do year 1. Let's do like, fuck, I wonder what Brad put as his signing bonus, but he doesn't list. Okay, so we'll do like 4 mil base salary year 1. Let's do, for the prorated bonuses, can we do like 2 million each year? Because I think that's a decent way of coming about like the signing bonus. Even though I think it'll be.
I can't click on prorated bonus for what it's worth. So.
Oh, okay. So it's just base salary. Okay, so base salary. Let's do like 6 mil year 1 then. So I was gonna put prorated bonus at 2. So yeah, then let's do 8 for. And then we just need to get to 26.25, so like 12.25 in year 3. And then why don't we fully guarantee year one? If it doesn't really matter, but fully guarantee year one. Let's do, and then we just need to get to like 15.75, so you can like fully guarantee year two also, because he is kind of young. So like I think giving him some like security long term is fair. And then this is fine. Like we don't really want to guarantee anything year three, even though Brad has him a little bit higher.
Okay. All right. I am good with that if you guys are.
Yeah, works for me.
Okay, so just for to help Steven out, the Chargers are now at $36.9 million in cap space.
All right, cool. I'd like to go towards the secondary at this point. What do you guys think? Who should we target here in the secondary? Like I said, I'm in favor of J-Ron Curse. I feel like that would be an affordable kind of upside signing. Well, what do you guys think?
Yeah, no, I'm all for Curse. That would have been, yeah, I'm all for it. Please, that's a good one.
Yeah, I like that one.
All right, let's do it. So Pro Football Focus has J-Ron Curse at 3 times 5, so $15 million total. I feel like that could potentially be a little bit higher based off of the career season. So, obviously you're paying top dollar here for somebody who just had a career season. But I don't know, Arjun, what do you think there?
Yeah, like I guess the problem with Curse is like, yeah, he had a career year. I think it was good that he was deployed all over the field. What would his role be though? Because like putting Adderley, Curse, and Derwin on the field, would we just have like a really big nickel? Is that like what would it be?
Yeah, I think with Curse, obviously you could kind of see him filling that Alohi Gilman third safety role, doing probably a little bit more slot work and maybe allowing Derwin to play in the box somewhat. Curse, for what it's worth, did play a lot as a deep safety in Minnesota. That was kind of the majority of his reps there. But yeah, he's essentially a big nickel playing in the box, playing in the slot, more so than a deep safety. So kind of guess it depends what you're looking at in terms of Nasir Adderley and changing his role and, kind of taking him out of the deep safety spot a little bit more. But
yeah,
I think basically with
no, sorry, you can finish.
No, I was gonna say, just basically at this point, you rotate Derwin and Curse in terms of slot, big nickel, box safety, deep safety, and kind of that stuff.
Okay, yeah, I agree. So, so in terms of his contract, I think I'm going to use Von Bell as a similar contract comparison. So let's do for year one, let's do let's do 4.5 mil in year one. In year two, let's do 5.5 mil. And then so that puts us, and then year three, let's do 6, because I think he's going to come in higher than what Brad has him at, like Steven said. So I think this type of like escalating contract, and then Von Bell has a bunch of like per game route, like he has a bunch of like weird bonuses in his contract, and obviously the signing bonus is kind of factored into here. So I think this is where he comes in at. This is like what, 3 years, 5.5 mil, so like 17.5 ish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I want to just ask you guys, because we've sort of contributed to the tire fire on the Tyrann Mathieu stuff, like we said earlier. And I feel like Curse is kind of a more malleable piece a little bit with Nasir Adderley and Derwin James, because I feel like if you have Tyrann Mathieu, you're probably just playing Derwin and Tyrann a lot, and then that leaves a lot of questions as to what Nas's role would be, given the kind of money you would be giving Tyrann Mathieu, obviously, in free agency. So I wonder, just for me, I feel like this one makes a little bit more sense than the Mathieu thing. But I just want to get your guys' thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think if you're signing Mathieu, then you're probably playing Nasir Adderley a little bit less. But I think the reason that why I'm personally in favor of signing a safety like this is because I think that Brandon Staley wants to play a lot more dime package than he did this year. I think obviously coming into the Chargers last year, where you have kind of that 3-headed monster at linebacker, it makes a little bit more sense to live in nickel. But one of the reasons why I was in favor of signing John Johnson last year was for this same thing. And so I think that Staley wants to be able to use Derwin and another safety, in the box and be able to just really cover space more so than, outright stop the run or outright have two linebackers. And so I think with Curse, you're getting a bigger body. Obviously, I think he's 6'3". I think he's like 220 pounds as opposed to Tyrann Mathieu. I think is like 5'9", 190. So I think with Mathieu, you're getting more of a cover deep part of the field playmaker as opposed to with Curse, you're getting more of a slot and box safety.
Yeah, that absolutely works for me. All right. Transact.
Right. Where do we want to go next?
So yeah, the Chargers are $32.4 million right now. I do think this is something that will happen. And I want to make this as realistic as possible. I do want to extend Derwin James and get that done because I do think that's what the Chargers are going to do this offseason. So Mr. Arjun, help me out with this one.
Okay, it's funny you mentioned I'm actually working on an article for PFF. I should come out like Monday or Tuesday talking about how I think the safety market is going to go crazy this summer.
Yeah.
And I said if I think this is my like closing sentence, I don't have it up, but it's like if you made me bet on who I think is going to reset the market, I would put money on Derwin James. Let's just think about it in the 18.5 to 19 mil market. That's his value. That's what he's going to get. That's what he deserves, honestly. So, damn. So it's going to be, I think it'll be coming at like 14 or 4 years, like $18.75 million. So that's in total value. That'd be like 75 mil. So 4 years, $75 million.
Yeah, 19 per year would be 76.
Yeah, so I think that's what he's gonna get. In terms of guarantees, it's tricky because most of the safety market it gets around like 25 to 35, or 25 to like 37% of their contract fully guaranteed. But because of his injury history, I don't think the Chargers are gonna make the decision to guarantee a lot of his contract. So.
Brad did say the same thing when I asked him this question, by the way.
Okay. Well, yeah, I haven't talked to him about this, fair warning. So this is at least, good minds think alike. So let's say he gets like 20 mil guaranteed in his contract. Sorry, are we looking for, Tyler, are we trying to do like year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4 cash flow, or just like,
I was trying to see if that would change. For some reason, you see what I'm hitting, I keep hitting extend or renegotiate, and it doesn't let me do anything. So guess we're gonna trade him. No, I don't know what else to do.
Yeah,
he's not letting me change. I was just curious how much it would affect the 2022 cap hit.
What'd you say, Alex?
No, I said I don't know if there's a way to do it on this website.
I guess you just have to visualize it. I'm curious though if we do extend him, like, does that lower his cap hit this year? Because I think they would.
I think it does. Last time I looked on over the cap on the other page here, when you just go to like the team page, obviously you don't have to exit Tyler, but when you go to the team page, I think it frees up like $6 million if you extend him this year. I think just kind of bonuses, but I am 100% in favor of extending Derwin James at this point. I think you're looking at this free agent market with Jesse Bates and Marcus Williams, who I think are really good players. But Derwin James has been an all-pro, Pro Bowl player in the 2 years that he's been healthy, and those guys haven't really reached those heights. So if there's any safety that should be the highest paid safety in the league, I 100% think it's Derwin James. Alex, where do you land on an extension for Derwin?
Yeah. So, I mean, you give him whatever he wants, frankly. The safety market is tough. It's a little like the wide receiver market, I think, because Jamal Adams just came in and Nagasaki the whole thing. So now we're in this position where it's just like, okay, well, Derwin's going to get well over 18, 19, 20 million potentially. But like, that's just kind of what you have to pay him now. I feel like it's a similar position to where the Packers are with Devontae Adams, and then you have like the DeAndre Hopkins contract, which is just this huge outlier in an even worse way. So yeah, no, I definitely think you just probably have to do, like Arjun said, 4 years, probably 18, 19 per, and live with it. Obviously, I think the Chargers will probably put some stuff in there related to his injuries. But I mean, we've seen how this team plays with him and without him, and you just can't function without him ultimately. I was just curious about the cap hit thing actually regarding this year, because this year is his 5th year option, right? So I don't know if that makes it less or more, but it's not a standard rookie year. So I was curious about that. I don't know.
So I think what they could do is they could transfer some of his P5, so his base salary, into future years in the form of a signing bonus. Like I said, I don't think they need to do that because they're in a healthy cap situation right now. Like, I think they just keep his contract what it is. I'm just trying to think of like what happened to Keenan Allen's contract when he got extended, because I think it lowered his final year of his second deal a little bit. But like I said, I don't think they need to do anything with Derwin's contract he's on right now. It's just, messing around with the cash flows for his new contract.
Yeah, I think it just, I don't know if you're the 5th year option cap hit changes. I think, when Keenan was on his second and they kind of messed around with that, I think when you are on that second, it probably changes the cap hit when you extend somebody, but I don't know much about the 5th year option, but that's a question for one of the PFF guys for sure.
Yeah, all good. All right, so we'll just keep it as is, but assume there's an extension, but everything stays the same this year.
Yeah.
Okay.
Pretty much. I think that's kind of the best way to do that. And I think in general the safety position is in a really interesting market at this point. Kind of similar to linebacker, we kind of saw it take a dive, and now it's kind of like coming back up. So just an interesting thing to keep an eye on there. But next up, I think I think all 4 of us have mentioned Cordero Patterson in one way or another. So let's add him here to the fold. Obviously would mean that Andre Roberts is kind of gone, like Arjun pointed out here. So PFF has him at 2 years, $16 million. I assume that in this scenario, we can kind of do the same thing, give the team an out after the first year because he is an older player. So maybe do like 4 years for the first year and then 10 for the second year kind of thing. I don't know.
Does that work?
Yeah, well, for what it's worth, we have 2 years, 12 mil total.
Oh, my bad.
Did my article say 14? Because my article was had some issues here and there, but I would be looking at like the free agent rankings board if you're looking for Brad's like exact.
No,
or Brad might have changed it.
Yeah, I just misread it. It has 2 for 12 on the page.
Yeah,
I just misread it. Yeah.
So I think like a 4.8, maybe 5.7 structure is what he'll come in at. Let me quick check if he had a signing bonus this year when he was under contract, because he just signed a 1-year deal with the.
Yeah.
Well, actually, no, it's not going to make a difference because 1-year deals are almost like fully guaranteed for players. So I think if he comes at 5.7, he'll probably have a signing bonus which lowers his base salary, but his year 1 will almost be fully guaranteed, especially given the year he had. Then year 2, I mean, if Staley really likes him, I think they'll be willing to give him some like maybe 1 or 2 mil in year 2, fully guaranteed. So yeah, you can do like 1.5 if you want, or 1's good. Sorry.
Just leave it at 1.5 now.
Yeah, that's good. I like that.
All right, so Tyler, what does that do for us now?
We are at $27.4 million in cap space.
So I think the latest numbers project the draft class to cost, I think, $11 million to sign, and then Tom Telesco usually likes to have $7-8 million in reserves. So I think that would put us at like $8 or $9 million left to spend.
Yeah, let me just do that this year. Let me just pick like a random person, okay, and just make that the number. In 2022, that's the hit. So we just have the number in front of us. So we think $11 million for the. Well, okay, so they need $11 million.
Why did you choose Daniel Sorensen?
Because it's hilarious. So they need $11 million to sign these players, but I believe during the summer. But then once the guys that the draft picks are replacing leave, they actually only need like 3 or 4 million. Is that correct? So technically, they only need like 3 or 4 million, even though. Like
I'd go on the higher side maybe because they have 11 draft picks this year, so maybe like 5 mil. plus the 7 or 8, so probably like 14 mil. Steven, is that what you're thinking?
Yeah,
Around
I think, yeah.
So just to be safe, and I like doing that anyway. And you never know. Like Andre Roberts signed for what 1.1 in the middle of the season, so it's definitely useful. Like they do need those
Yeah.
emergency funds. Okay, so 14 mil.
Yeah.
Okay.
14 mil for Daniel Sorensen.
Okay, so that leaves us at how much?
14.1 million.
All right. So a couple of people pointing out, obviously, we haven't really addressed the run defense. Obviously, you signed Akeem Hicks. We signed another defensive tackle. What do you guys think here?
Yeah, we go Joseph Day right here, or DJ Jones, maybe.
Yeah, I think it's probably got to be Joseph Day, just because that feels like such a shoe-in.
Yeah, I think DJ Jones probably a little bit more expensive. No,
I guess the opposite, isn't it? Or am I wrong? Where is he?
Well, Steven, do you think DJ Jones is big enough to play nose tackle, or is he like a Justin Jones type player?
I think he's more of a Covington kind of hybrid. Whereas
Okay.
Joseph Day is outright nose tackle. So
Yeah, I'd
Maybe
rather
like-
just go with the outright nose.
yeah, then we don't have to worry about drafting Jordan Davis in the first round. Sorry, I
Yeah.
had to.
Chill, bro.
And you're gonna do this for like 3 more months.
Thank
The
God he
draft is
didn't go
in
to
2
Utah.
months. What'd you say?
Thank God he didn't go to Utah. Or Alex.
If he went to Utah, I'd be all for it. But
Oh, dude, if we went to Utah, Steven would be trading up to number 1.
All right. So what?
Hey
is,
man, I haven't mentioned Devin Lloyd like a single time yet. So
Not yet.
not yet, but yeah. So Sebastian Joseph Day, I think is 3 for 8 per, if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, so-
go ahead, Arjun.
Okay, so maybe we go like, again, disregarding the signing bonus or factoring that in, we go 6 mil year 1. Let's do like 8 mil year 2, and then
So 10 year 3.
what? Yeah, 10 year 3.
That'd be 24.
Yeah, and so then Brad has 15.5 guaranteed. Let's guarantee his year 1, and then let's do like half of year 2.
Half of his 2023
Yeah.
or half of
Yeah, that's perfect, and then nothing in year 4 and year 3.
Okay. So basically a 2-year deal. Alrighty. Look at that. Things are so much more difficult when you actually do things. So we have $8.8 million in cap space, and boy, do we still have a lot of holes in this roster.
Do we want to go to right tackle now? Because I feel like we haven't addressed
Yeah.
that one, and we talked about some guys like Morgan Moses and others.
That's off the table at this point. I think you.
Well,
do have to go.
that probably is off the table. So maybe some
Wait,
cheaper
why?
options, but
I mean, Moses, you could get like I said, the whole point of the low year 1 cap is just like you could fit a lot of people in. So like if
Yeah,
you get a
so-
more like, sorry, go Steven.
I was just gonna say I see what Arjun's saying, because we can do, the low cap hit, $4 million, for example, in the first year, and we would
Mhm.
still be able to sign him. And again, this is just the exercise, right? So and shout out to Tyler's mom, always appreciate the presence and the super chats. So Arjun, do you think Reef is probably more expensive than Moses at this point, or are they about the same?
Yeah, no, I think Reef would be. So the funny thing with Reef is like there's going to be recency bias because the Bengals had like a pretty solid offense and they made the Super Bowl. Plus the bias of you saw how bad the Bengals offensive line was after he got hurt. So yeah, he'll
Right.
probably command more money than Morgan Moses. And I honestly like I know Reef's injury was probably more of like a freak one, but again, I just want durability. I really don't care. Like anyone's probably an upgrade over Norton at this point. So
Yeah.
just get me someone who can stay on the field and be healthy for at least like 15 games.
Yeah, and I've said this before. Shane Day was on the coaching staff in Washington when Moses was drafted. Day was actually an assistant offensive line coach there, so maybe a little stronger connection than Ryan Ficken and Riley Leaf. So let's do Moses. I think PFF has him 3 for 21. But let's just do a 2-year. I think that probably is kind of where he's at with given his age. So let's do 2 for 14.
so 6 and 8.
Yeah. Or you could do
That's
5
fine.
and 7. Do 5 and 7 instead. Sorry, Tyler. Wait, that's 12.
Gross.
Math is hard. My bad. Yeah, do
Man.
5 in year 1 and then 9 in year 2.
Arjun has to listen to us figure out how to add numbers to Euclid on the show.
All good, all good.
I picked biology for a reason, so come on, Arjun, we got this. Does
I
that
would
work?
I
Is
would
that-
give yeah, and then I would, just assuming factoring the signing bonus, I'd give like 3.5, not fully guaranteed because he's kind of on the older side. So this is just guaranteeing that he makes it to training camp and a high likelihood he's going to be on the roster. I think that's where how the salary guarantee would work here.
Okay. So we're at $4.5 million left, and guys, I think something needs to not happen here because unfortunately, most of the other little signings here and there are $1 million, $895,000. I mean, Ode Abuji. I mean, this obviously leaves off Kaiser White. Donald Parham on his tender or whatever it's supposed to be. Justin Hopkins still needs to come back. Matt Overton still needs to come back. Obviously, they're not expensive, but $750,000, $895,000.
Yeah, so do the tender for Guyton and Parham. I think that's probably likely for both.
I think we blew our load on external free agency, and this is why we're not GMs.
No, we didn't.
Well, no. So I'm curious. So I think I was thinking about this before we started. I don't think the goal in this free agency should be to get marquee free agents. It should be to get depth and
right.
I
think we did that.
Akeem, yeah, I think we did that and again, I think the year 1 cap hits are going to be even lower than what we put. Obviously, time constraint. I'm kind of just thinking on the spot with these contracts, but it's going to be lower than we think. And Telesco and Ed McGuire, for all the crap that Charger fans give Telesco, he does a great job of managing the cap. Him and Ed McGuire, do that pretty well. So I think they'll have a good plan going in to where not only can they patch holes, they can patch holes with multiple players, which I think is super important here.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'll kind of be. I mean, we can discuss what free agency will be. There's rumors as to whether they'll be aggressive or not aggressive, but I do think in terms of filling up the depth, it'll sort of be like what they did in 2020 a little bit, where it was just kind of all right, here's $7 million for Linval Joseph, here's some for Chris Harris, right? In terms of more, like Arjun said, getting some of these depth guys that can help the team out in the short term on Justin Herbert's rookie deal, as opposed to some of these big, frivolous spending moves.
Yeah, and for what it's worth, Daniel Popper seems to think that the right tackle spot is addressed in the draft. I happen to think that would be a mistake, but that's obviously why we went and got Morgan Moses in this situation. So right now with 4, I think that still gives you time. I think that gives you space here to sign maybe a couple 1-year deals here and then maybe do an extension for Donald Parham, I think, and Steven Anderson. I don't know. Maybe we can do one more just to see where we're at there.
Yeah. What's the roster count at this point? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
But they do have 11 draft picks. Yeah.
It
says 56 under contract.
56 under contract. Plus they got
11 draft picks.
Does that include the futures guys also?
All these people.
Yeah, it does include the futures.
Yeah, so I mean, plus they'll draft 11 guys, undrafted free agents. Okay, that actually does kind of put them out to eventually 90 when, everyone's kind of on the team.
Yeah. So I think in this instance, we've obviously got the 2 defensive tackles. We've got the safety signing. I could see them going after that secondary pass rusher market. And so I wanted to mention some names here. Lorenzo Carter from the Giants is a free agent. He's somebody that Brandon Staley specifically mentioned by name, even though he was hurt at the time ahead of the Giants game. So he is kind of a younger player. He was a little hurt in 2020, but he had 60 pressures and 11 sacks across the 2019 and 2021 season. I think Dante Fowler, probably a little too expensive in this scenario, but he's somebody I wanted to mention too. Had 60 total pressures and 11 sacks for the Falcons over the last 2 seasons. And then Takaris McKinley is also somebody that Brandon Staley went out of his way to praise in the press conferences ahead of the Cleveland Browns game. He had 25 total pressures and 3 sacks for the Browns this season. He is also a UCLA product, which we know that Tom Telesco likes those local guys. So I think in this instance with Nwosu coming back, I could see them kind of going out and getting, this year's version of Kyler Fackrell. And I think these 3 players would make sense there.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I know. Tack McKinley. He was someone that didn't really grade out well with PFF, but in ESPN's that chart that they make with pass rush win rate and run stop win rate, he always was really good in pass rush win rate, and I thought he was gonna be a low key X factor when we played in week 5. Obviously sucks what happened to him and suffering a season ending injury, but yeah, I mean, if Staley's talking about him and he, looks really good per the analytics, I think that could be a sneaky signing that, not many people are connecting the dots.
Yeah. I guess the one thing we didn't really address in this exercise, well, we didn't address a couple things, but the main one being tight end, because we didn't re-sign Jared Cook and we didn't really go after Njoku or anyone else. So, yeah, one of the faults of this exercise is we forget how money works.
No, I don't think that's necessarily a problem. I think you sort of get your weapon. Well, you keep Williams, you get your weapon in Patterson, and I think the draft is so depth heavy with tight ends. I think that Tom Telesco would be I'm cool with tight ends, and Donald Parham and maybe Jared Cook comes back. I don't know, but I do want to finish some of these. I do think Ode Abuji is back.
Comes back.
I agree. Yeah,
and I do think that's worth. I think it's a 1.5, right?
Yeah, that's the minimum.
PFF.
That's what it was this year, yeah.
I think that's what this projection is too. But I just rolled through it real fast so we have the numbers change. Steven Anderson, I think, is worth bringing back, right?
In this instance where we didn't sign another tight end, I think absolutely he's back.
Yeah, probably has to be. Although I guess I'll think about how that's interesting depending on what they do or what they want to do with Trey McKitty in year 2. But yeah.
So what do we want to give him?
That's probably just the minimum, yeah.
What was his contract? Yeah, I think he was $920,000 this year or something like that.
Is this first number that comes up, is that the minimum immediately?
Yeah.
Yeah. About.
Yeah, it's 1.035 for I think 3 or 4 accredited seasons. So I think that's right.
Okay. All right.
So what are we at now after those 2?
We're at about 3.4 million with 58 players under contract. Names to think so Dustin Hopkins is a name we haven't talked about yet. Scott Questenberry potentially, Matt Overton obviously.
Let's do Hopkins. I feel like I said last time that I feel like Hopkins kind of seems like the most likely there. I have no idea what a kicker contract would look like here, so I'm going to leave that up to the other 3 of you.
I mean,
I'm deferring to the other 2 of you.
What did Hopkins make this year? I would imagine
not much.
3-4 million. I don't know.
As long as it's under 3.391.
Yeah, I guess so. But yeah, no, I think they have to bring him back. Yeah.
Sorry, with the Chargers, he made 1.075. Let me look up his
football.
Yeah, these kicker contracts are kind of pricey. I'm not gonna lie.
His Washington contract had him at 2.5 per year.
So altogether 3.
Yeah. So you can do maybe do a multi-year contract there and do a 2 for 5 kind of contract or something like that, or 2 for 6.
Okay. How?
So then in this, so you would do 2 in year 1 and then 4 in year 2.
Yeah.
Whatever. Who cares about guarantees? Right. $2.2 million left. Cutting Larry Roundtree and
cutting Larry Roundtree.
Yeah.
Did you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Did you tender Tai Long or no?
No, and I don't. I do think they could tender him and then let him go. I'm assuming that's non-guaranteed. So we could tender him. Do you want to do that?
What's the tender cost?
A lot.
Well, I don't think they tender him though. I think they just give him like a 1 year deal, and whatever his salary was this year, I would imagine, or it's like a 1 year, whatever the league minimum kind of is, sort of deal.
Yeah, so just for those who are just joining, we are reserving $14 million in the form of Daniel Sorensen, hypothetically, for the draft class and in-season funds. So obviously, that's not a one-for-one change, but just kind of the way we felt doing that.
I just hope someone scrolls through the video and sees that we give 14 million to Daniel Sorensen with no context.
So yeah, did you do the tender for Tai Long?
I didn't. Which one? I mean, first, second. I mean, that's kind of.
Oh yeah, first round tender for the punter. Let's go.
Yeah, let's do it. 2.4, man. That's ridiculous.
I'd rather just let him walk at that point.
Yeah, just no punter this year.
Let's leave Tai Long out for now.
Yeah, let's leave him out.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. Well, what about Chase Daniel?
No, I think they explore a different draft option. I think with all their sevenths,
or just Easton Stick maybe as the
backup.
I mean, he's got to be the backup at some point, man. Like,
yeah, no, that's true.
So running back is another one we didn't really address either in this scenario.
Well, I mean, we did get Patterson, who's wide back.
Oh yeah, you're right. My bad. I forgot we did that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We have Kelly and Roundtree, so like,
it's pretty elite.
Yeah,
it's an elite room right there.
Oh, and Neighbors roster spot.
Yeah.
Oh, we actually should cut Kate. Like, honestly, like I'm serious though. Like
because you have Steven Anderson, we should.
Finally.
Yeah. Oh my God, what does he save us if we cut him?
$8.95.
Oh man,
I mean,
that's like another Tai Long.
Yeah, that's another minimum contract.
Let's do it.
There we go.
Actually, I do think it's worth if we got Patterson though. Do you think they'll carry 4 running backs?
No,
I mean this is the smart thing versus the.
Is the fact that he's Justin Herbert's friend worth $895,000?
He can give him money on the side. He's fine.
That's some money laundering.
There we go. Make his contract void. But yeah, I mean, in this instance, like I feel like you have to cut Josh Kelly.
Yeah, I agree, but I also feel like he was their third back last year. Like, do you think they'll just go with why not just cut Roundtree then?
Definitely not before this. Like I think they'll just keep him for a training camp body and then cut him for roster cuts.
So we'll just that makes sense. So we'll cut Kelly, but it's more of a what can we do a post? Is there a difference?
Well, yeah, I mean it would be post because we're cutting him, I guess, after training camp, and then we can put that money towards the
Holy crap, $1 million this year? Cut. All right, there we go.
We can put him towards the Sorensen thing of like in-season moves.
That's fine. I cut him. So we have $4 million in cap space, folks. How y'all want to splurge on this?
Well, I think at this point you get a secondary, another pass rusher, or another corner of some kind.
Well, Steven, what about the Gilbert article where like they said they were going to invest heavy resources into the special teams?
Yeah, so Curse would be one of those. Sort of.
I mean, like I don't think any of us are like well versed in who gunners are that are free agents. So I mean,
literally, gunner is a gunner.
Yeah,
no, he's not a gunner. Sorry.
Well, in theory, like, Ryan Smith.
Yeah,
I just think
the ACL though.
Yeah. I just think they have so many 7th rounders. Like I think that's just
they probably use one on that.
Who was the gunner after he went down? Wasn't it like Keemon Hall and Tavon Campbell?
Devontae
Harris?
Yeah.
None of those guys really worked.
No, that's true. But yeah, I think some names to throw out here for corner. I mentioned Kyle Fuller earlier. He's super cheap that you could get here in this instance, and that would allow Tavon Campbell and Keemon Hall to play special teams. Mike Hughes is another name to throw out. That's really kind of the only 2 names that I had here. Bryce Callahan. That's a slot guy, obviously.
I could actually see that, but at this point we can just think of random names and
Just do Kyle Fuller.
okay.
He doesn't have the injury history that Bryce Callahan does.
Do we feel like then that was kind of a lot to throw in the secondary with Curse and then Fuller? I mean, I'm fine with that.
I mean, you're probably signing Fuller for a 1 year, $3 million deal that's half guaranteed. You're not signing him for anything crazy.
What is he projected to get, or is there not a projection because he's not a top 200?
I think he is a top 200, isn't he, Arjun?
Who?
Kyle
Callahan?
Fuller.
Oh yeah,
No,
he's
Kyle-
like 180. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's 145. So it's 1 year, 5.75, probably
Oh,
fully
shit.
guaranteed.
Never mind then. And not doing 5.75.
well,
then.
we're
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
1.5 million short.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure how. I think he'll come in a little bit lower on a down year, but you never know.
Did Devontae Harris go back to the Broncos? I thought that was Bassey. I thought Bassey was the one who went back.
Yeah.
I think Harris
I don't
is
know.
still. I think Harris is a free agent.
Yeah. Wait, when did Bassey go back? I don't really care.
I
but,
think
like,
they claimed him off of waivers. But
Okay.
we're
makes sense.
I told Tyler we wouldn't do a 90-minute show, and we're about to that point. So just do Kyle Fuller for like 1 for 3, and we'll call it good.
Yeah.
Why not? JC Jackson.
JC
1 for
Jackson
3.
to take a
1
massive
for
pay cut,
3.
man.
Yeah. We want to play for a winner.
Casey Hayward?
Casey Hayward is might as well buy a house in Indianapolis right now.
Well, this is the end of our show, so we can give
Yeah.
him. Wait,
He can rent Carson Wentz's house.
Yeah, do 4 million, I guess.
ah, crap. Second here.
Someone said cut Joe Reed. No, I refuse. I will hold on to the Joe Reed dream forever.
You guys are ridiculous.
God, this is gonna be such a terrible audio experience.
It's a lovely audio experience.
It's gonna be great. People will love it.
I hope so.
All right, so there's our cap space. So let's say 825,000 now.
Heck
Great. So
yeah.
Gabe Nabors coming back.
No. Why would we do that? Give me Overton. What is his? What's the cheapest deal we can give a 50-year-old punt or long snapper?
50. 1 year.
Probably. What
600K?
does it say when you re-sign him or whatever?
I mean, he just gets the lowest.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just do that.
Where are we? $530,000 left, guys.
Oh Jesus.
We did it. We did
There we
it.
go. All right, Tyler, run down the list of moves that we made here.
Heck yeah. Okay, so we signed Morgan Moses to play right tackle. Then we got Sebastian Joseph Day and Akeem Hicks to play the interior. So that solves that. That's a great idea, in my opinion. Cordarrelle Patterson was our splash signing on offense. He's there for, I think, 2 years. We re-signed Uchenna Nwosu, and I think that's going to happen. We tagged Mike Williams, and then we signed Daniel Sorensen to $14 million to be our placeholder for the amount of money they need for draft capital and for emergency funds. So that was $14 million. Honestly, that's probably a stretch as is. So I think like you can probably fit more money into the cap space that we have. So that was, oh, then Jerron Curse for $4.5 million this year. So we signed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 players to start for the Chargers. Re-signed in Bosu.
And then we brought back
and Williams,
Steven Anderson, and who else?
Yeah, so of the free agents, we brought back Ode Abushi, obviously Chetan Mosu, Steven Anderson, Dustin Hopkins, Matt Overton, and we cut Brian Bulaga, obviously, cut Joshua Kelly, thank God, and then we cut Gabe Nabors, hallelujah.
and we extended Derwin.
Yes, we did extend Derwin. We just couldn't figure out a way to actually do it.
We still don't know how to do it. So
yeah.
But obviously things can change here. You know, obviously this is just an idea of names to throw out there. I think we feel pretty good. Like I said, I'd be pretty surprised at this point if Akeem Hicks were not a Charger next year. Mike Williams, Uchenna Nwosu, I think should be back as well. But Alex, how are you feeling about this simulation?
This was pretty good. I also feel like our minds just went the deep end after the first hour, and we just tried to be plugging in numbers to see what works. But no, I think this is a fun exercise, and we could probably do it 100 times and come up with 100 different combinations. But very fun to play around with it. And no, I'm just excited for free agency to get underway, and so we can actually talk about this stuff outside of the theoretical. But
Arjun, any final thoughts here?
Yeah, I think the Chargers, number one, need to get ahead of the market. And so whatever they decide to do with Derwin and Mike will kind of dictate to me how they approach free agency. If they choose to tag Mike this week, I think they'll tell me that they are actively looking for a long-term extension and they're not just like trying to just keep him on the team for 1 year. Then obviously I would like to see Derwin get extended first. I don't want to have to wait until Jesse Bates or Minka Fitzpatrick. I mean, people don't really talk about him, but I mean, he's had all pro years as well. I mean, you can't really wait for other teams to make the move because then you're just going to be paying more money in the long run. So, I think Staley and Telesco kind of spoke about how they're going to be a little bit more aggressive, and it's not all going to be defense. I mean, having a top five offense is great. It can be better, right? So, making moves all around is what I'm looking for this year.
Yeah, I'm totally cool with everything that we did. I think the one more wild card, I guess, is Morgan Moses. Otherwise, you can connect all of these guys to their needs, to their coaches, what they want to do. So I think most of this all really makes sense. The obvious one that we didn't talk about, but we're all assuming that Kaiser White is not back. It's really unfortunate, but that's just the way things seem to be going at this point. So it's unfortunate, but him not being back, kind of expected at this point.
Yeah, that's gonna be a tough one to swallow. But
we did go for Morgan Moses. I was just curious what the difference between Morgan Moses and Dennis Kelly was, because that was another one we
Dennis Kelly was
talked about.
$1.5 million.
So yeah, that is cheaper. And if they wanted to go that way and kind of have more of a placeholder tackle than a starter, that could theoretically be a way to kind of shave some money down. But
yeah, exactly. Morgan Moses and a later pick in the draft versus Dennis Kelly and maybe like a second or third round pick or something. So yeah, I mean,
I think the thing with Moses is that you get your starter theoretically for 2 years,
yeah,
as opposed to Kelly, and then hopefully that rookie that you pick kind of becomes that guy in 2023. So I think that's really the difference. Again, I'm okay with signing Dennis Kelly, or somebody mentioned Scott Questenberry's brother. I think his name is David, who plays for the Titans. That's another one I think can make some sense. Matt mentioned Jabril Peppers in the chat. That's something that Tyler kind of floated on Twitter the other day and had a video about that. So that could be a replacement for Jaron Curse, probably a little cheaper just based off of the down seasons. But I feel like, we kind of want a difference maker, another playmaker to add back there. So I'm really happy with this situation. I think that fills a lot of needs, would allow the Chargers to truly take the best player available, kind of regardless of position in the first round at this point. But I'm really happy with this. I mentioned the Brad Spielberger interview earlier. That will be dropping tomorrow, so please go check that out. And thank you guys so much for tuning in. That's going to do it for us. Keep an eye out for Arjun's article as well. That's dropping either tomorrow or Tuesday. And we'll see you guys next time.